Hey again, you guys. It's Maria Malec, another episode of Taking Healthy Back. And this is an especially special one, although they're all special, but Mary and I are dear, dear, dear old friends. We went to college together. We were roommates. Can I please share the story of first? Please. I don't know why this story amuses me so much, but I love it because it's like so unique to Mary and myself. So the first day, I'm 17 years old, hadn't even turned 18 yet, and we were walking into, I guess, orientation for college, and Mary was sitting at this table with her parents, and she was smoking a cigarette.
As were my parents.
But the thing was, I was
Right.
oh my gosh, she's smoking in front of her parents. Like she wasn't doing it behind the bleachers type of thing. So that was our first experience together. 40 years, I think.
Yeah, 40 years.
40 years. We were roommates, and we really just enjoyed each other's company. We laughed so much, and we still do 40 years later. And so Mary has seen me really in all the phases of my life, from getting married to having kids to having kids to having kids to having kids to having kids, and beyond. So she saw my whole healing journey and the evolution of what's actually taking place here. And so I think she is going to be a great interview for Taking Healthy Back, because she too has been through her own health and wellness journey in all aspects of her life. And one thing, first of all, Mary is one of my heroes in my life as my friends, like, you know what I mean? And for a very long time, Mary had a job that was highly stressful, and she always maintained her calm through it all. And Mary's from a pretty large family as well, so I guess, you learn all of that in those dynamics. Yet she, I feel, has overcome many adversities that are stress related, and we're going to talk about those today. So, Mary, welcome. We're wearing blankets and we're all bundled up because we're in the Panhandle at Port St. Joe, Florida, and I went from like 80 degrees, and all of a sudden, we're all wrapped up. But I'm loving it. So, Mary, my first question is, how do you feel health has contributed to your success in your life? Like getting you through life in general, like your focus.
Well, first of all, it's good to know that it looked like I was handling that very stressful job well. But the truth is I wasn't, and my health was very negatively affected by that.
Okay.
And literally on my last day of work, I got salmonella poisoning, which brought me into the hospital for several days, and I really feel that the stress of my job would have taken me, and that I barely got out alive. So
wow.
I really feel that way. And then when I moved here, which was right after that, it's a different environment. It's a different place. It's a different focus. You can't help but see the magic of the universe around you, with the ocean and the forest, and
can you hear the wind chimes? That's why I wanted to do this outside. It's really chilly, but there's a nice breeze, and that's all we hear are these chimes.
Yeah.
So it's super serene here. This is my retreat, and when I travel here regularly, it's a 6-hour drive, so it really is a retreat.
Thanks.
So getting through that all, part of your, I'll call it rehabilitation, was this serene environment.
Right.
And you created all of this from scratch.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. And I worked with an acupuncturist who was really helpful and kind of getting me better aligned and helping me with my cleaning out my organs, etc., and using essential oils. And
Oh, yeah.
I was able to completely eliminate a pre-diabetic medical condition that I had for years.
Oh my gosh.
And come off all of the medication, and I've maintained myself off it for years now. So
That makes
that
me
was
so
pretty
happy.
good. Yeah. And I believe I couldn't have done that living in the stressful environment that I was in the way I was.
Yeah, I mean, I know I don't even know half of it, but when we talked, I knew that you had such a great responsibility. You were managing residential homes, right? How many?
About 15.
Okay, 15. And weren't they also challenged clients?
A lot of those folks, had medical challenges or behavioral challenges. I mean, I had an incredible team, which I would never have been able to do it that long without them. But yeah, it was a huge responsibility, and it was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
And for what, like 23 years?
28 years.
28 years. So I'm glad you're still here and you made it through all that. Otherwise,
Me too.
it would be a sad place.
Yeah.
Okay, Mary, for our next question, but before that, we're going to do this oil called ImmuPro. I had always known about this oil, but I never used it. And once I experienced it, it's like my new favorite oil. ImmuPro. Awesome. It's very strong and pungent. And since, I don't know, maybe a week, I've had this respiratory issue, and this like quieted everything down and helped bring things to the surface. So, okay, sorry, I digress. My second question, Mary, is what are your 3 to 5 non-negotiables for sustained wellness?
Healthy relationships.
Okay.
Good communication.
Yep.
Spirituality, whatever that is for you. Assisting others. And assisting the environment.
Wow. Mary is a turtler. Is that what we call you?
Sure.
Explain what that is.
I was trained in the state of Florida to work with a permit holder 058 to monitor turtles nesting in our area and assist in the evaluations of nests to see if they were successful or not. So I go out and find the nest early in the morning, and then myself and other people, we have different people that do it every day. We monitor those nests, and then we eventually dig if necessary to assist any turtles out or to monitor it for the scientific purposes. So it's fun. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's super cute, the pictures she shows me. Those are really awesome non-negotiables. Anything in the nutrition area or supplementation area that are non-negotiables as well, because it's the whole body.
It sure is the whole body. And I don't really think of them in the same way I don't think of brushing my teeth or using deodorant.
Right.
So I don't really think of them as non-negotiables. I just think of them as part of my everyday.
Okay.
So I don't really imagine them as being not available. So I
anything
use
in particular?
Oils. Yeah, and I use oils when I'm turtling sometimes too. Although I would have to be really cautious if I was handling any turtles to wear gloves. And I wouldn't oil on those days.
What oils would you use?
I would use peppermint to keep bugs away, which is very successful. I would use Panaway if I had a problem with a muscle or something while I'm turtling. and I share those with other people too.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the ones I use the most on the beach.
Well, that's interesting. I never knew that until this moment, so that makes me happy.
Yeah.
I like those non-negotiables, and I like what you said about supplementation and stuff. It's just a natural part of your life, so you can't imagine that they wouldn't be there and that you have to make a decision.
Right.
But just
you know, the truth is you can have good relationships or bad relationships.
Sure.
And if they're bad, when you maintain them, you can't let go of that negativity. So there are scents and oils that maybe Linda doesn't prefer.
Sure.
So I will be cognizant of that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But it's, like I said, it's like brushing my teeth or using deodorant or something.
No, I hear you. And I'm sure we all have a lot of that good and bad things in our lives. Products, supplements, people. Well, thank you. I like those. They're thought-provoking for me, especially your non-negotiables. We're just sitting here enjoying the wind and those wind chimes. And the birds. There's so many birds here. It's lovely. Okay, my third and final question, Mary, is 4 years ago, there was Hurricane Michael that swept through the Panhandle, and it was quite devastating to Port St. Joe. And I think that's the first time you ever experienced a hurricane of that nature, correct?
Right.
All right. So it was devastating and traumatic, and Mary had some pretty serious ill effects after, or during and after. And Mary, I would like to know how, the things that you did, your health regimen, helped you to overcome it in what I believe a very quick manner. There were a lot of people here in Port St. Joe who suffered their demise because of the weight of the tragedy and the trauma. And it impresses me, especially with Mary, that you overcame it so rapidly. And then in this most recent hurricane, Ian, it was up in my area, and Mary was such a great consoling and comforting source, because she kept checking in with me. She kept calling me, texting me, saying, did you think about this? Are you doing this? Did you do that? So from that tragedy, Mary was able to be a comforter to me. And I want to know what it was that you did, Mary, that helped you with that rapid rate of coming through that trauma.
Well, first I just have to make one clarification, which was that Mexico Beach, which is actually in Bay County and is 2 miles from here, was the decimated location from Hurricane Michael.
Okay.
Port St. Joe is the town, the city that we live in on St. Joe Beach here. So anyway, Port St. Joe had a lot of damage, but Mexico Beach was literally wiped off the map, miles and miles and miles.
Okay.
So, and Mexico Beach is where I did most of my recovery rehab with people.
Okay.
So in the very early days of the hurricane, our community came together immediately, neighbor helping neighbor, making sure people had what they needed, bringing food or water to folks that didn't have ready access, and the fire station was set up, and the church down the street was set up. And myself, as well as many other people, went to people who couldn't get out of their homes, or one woman who, she could get out, but once she got out, she wouldn't be able to get back in. So she decided to stay. And her front steps were 3/4 blocking her door, her exit. So the firemen came and cut it in half. But without them lifting her out, she wouldn't be able to get out. But she decided to stay because she didn't want people looting her home. So she did. Hadn't thought about her in a while. But anyway, during those very early days, I found it was very difficult for me to be on a food line, to be waiting in line with dozens of other people with my hands out, because that's the only way I was going to eat that day. And it was heartbreaking for me to do that, because I was used to, right after the storm, we had some things, cooking for people and being the one delivering meals to people, and it was very hard to do that. And shortly thereafter, Camp Happy Tummy opened in Mexico Beach, and that was a place where some friends I had from Killer Seafood opened up a camp and cooked for the community. And we served breakfast eventually. Before it was closed, we were serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner to hundreds of people, and giving them opportunities to sit and have conversations and make connections and have their stories be told and heard. And that was really quite magical, those kinds of connections in my healing. And honestly in theirs as well, because everyone's story needs to be told.
So what I hear is part of your recovery was serving others.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That healed your heart.
Right. Yep, definitely. And I didn't really mention meditation earlier.
Right.
But I've been meditating, long ago before Michael. But it was really important for our community to have an opportunity to come together and share their spirituality and share their sorrows and their successes, and that was an important part of that wellness and those relationships with others.
You're going to hear in my videos going further on and on more talk about essential oils, because when I use essential oils now, it's more for the emotional aspect, and I'm going to do a separate video on all of that and part of my wellness regimen. During this time of grief and more stress and things of that nature, were you not sleeping well? Did you use any oils during that time for emotional support or even physical support?
I did, and I also, shared those with others. I'm a firm believer and take thieves on a daily basis for wellness, and shared it with many people, as well as, a number of other things based upon what the situation was. Lavender, peppermint, different things used for pain, for people who are having physical symptoms, and
And what I'm going to be teaching in the Taking Healthy Back is much of what I do becomes passive wellness, passive healing, like using the oils and other kind of things from nature. Because when you immerse yourself in with those kinds of things, your body knows what to do with it. It's not like a conscious thing like, oh, I forgot to take my medicine. So just in everyday life, dwelling, living, using these natural resources naturally keeps your body always seeking homeostasis. And I'll be teaching about these along the way. I'd love to hear everybody's stories and the different things that they're doing. And we'd like to bring all these different efforts and methods into your awareness so that you could pick and choose and find what works for you. The thing is to just try it. That's my whole thing. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Maybe that wasn't your thing. But it's really been great over the years. Thankfully, Mary, asks for my thoughts or knowledge on what she should do with a particular situation that comes up. So that's very honoring to me, and knowing that some of the things that I shared with her actually do work. And when you put your faith in your own healing and taking your healthy back and you being in control of it and not having to consult other people, just knowing what to do, is really true health freedom. And that's the goal here. And I appreciate everybody who is following. Keep following, because these stories and interviews are just going to get better. I just know that. And I am really learning some great things about my friends. So stay tuned for the next episode of Taking Healthy Back. Who knows where I'm going to be next? Stay tuned. Hey, you guys. So, hey, me and Mary and a bunch of people are going to release
A bunch of trained, certified Sea Turtle Patrol.
Sea Turtle Patrol people, and we're going to release 100
About green turtles.
Green?
Yes, green. GREEN. That's the kind of turtle you have to make.
We're going to go release green
Sea turtles.
sea turtle
Babies. They're babies. They came out and were too cold.
And we're in a golf cart, and that's why it's so loud. So stay tuned.